hospital was telling me, do not get stressed, etc. Just don't get stressed, not good.
No chance. I'm a business owner. I'm never going to get stressed.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamilton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Today, we are joined by 1%er Dave Foster. Now, Dave has more than 20 years' experience of training trainers, empowering driving instructors with DVSA-aligned coaching and tuition. Dave is better known within the 1% Club as Driving School Dave. Dave, welcome to the ALB podcast.
Oh, thank you.
It's lovely to have you with us, mate. So, I'd imagine there's a big difference, isn't there? Difference between teaching someone how to drive and teaching someone how to teach someone how to drive. Training the trainers. What's the difference, and how has that led to you becoming Driving School Dave?
It is a subject for a book. It's a massive.
Yeah, we haven't got that long, Dave. Come on.
No. It's a massive change, and it's a difficult one for the trainer, because you have got to get the driving instructors mode into training. And basically, I always try and tell them it's about teaching. So later on, when I went out and got various different qualifications and all sorts, etc., my qualifications were based on teaching. I learned how to teach teaching. Whereas the instructor in the car still seems to think it's all about how the pedals work and all this, etc. But when you become a trainer, you're teaching, and the biggest problems we have is trying to get their head round that they're not, as an instructor trainer, not teach. The instructor trainers have got to be teaching them how to teach, and they don't. They want to rote teach them, a student, how to move off and stop, how to turn junctions, and how to do all this stuff, when they need to take a step back and go, right, okay, that's their skill, that's what they do. A good analogy I use at often is a history teacher. When they become a teacher, they're not taught how to teach the Battle of Hastings or Waterloo, etc. They don't have specific lessons on that. They are taught the teaching skills, and they use their subject knowledge with their teaching skills. So they're taught how to develop lesson plans, how to structure a lesson, what to do if lessons go wrong, how to control a lesson, classroom control, yada, 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 etc. And then apply their excellent knowledge, hopefully, of driving as being their subject knowledge. And it's quite difficult because the industry as a whole, even the DVSA up until 10 years ago, were stuck on teaching rote lessons, etc., not teaching the teaching skills. And thankfully, they've moved away massively from that now. Hopefully that makes sense. It's teaching.
Absolutely. I'm married to a teacher, so this is this makes a lot of sense to me, Dave.
My qualifications are not specifically in necessarily driving; they're in teaching. I'm a qualified adult education teacher and all this stuff. That's how I did it, by learning how to teach.
Definitely. Can we jump straight in at the most dramatic point of your story and the reason we've invited you onto the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast today? What were you doing on the 30th of September 2018, Dave?
31st of September. What was I doing? I was just one weekend doing a little bit of work on my house, etc. Up on a roof, I don't know. What is it now? It's got to be some 5 meters high. It's a 2-story roof, flat roof section, as I'd done many times before, because I stored work up there, and decided that I would not stay up there and sit on the side where there was nothing and take the shortcut down. And yes, I fell from a roof, etc. It's interesting because somebody last night was asking about it, and they did. Was there this fantastic life life-changing thing that goes on during the fall? And absolutely, yes, there was. When I sat on nothing, 5 meters of, not 5 meters, sorry, was it 2, 4, 6, anyway, 2 stories high. When I sat down and I realised I'm sitting on nothing but thin air, and the point when I put my arms back, and that point when the whole thing, when I realised, oh, bugger, I could almost knew where the ground, I knew it was coming, I knew it was coming. And yeah, there was a whole thing of, I don't want to die now. Oh dear, this is the end. And it was an absolute, oh dear, this is the end. My head's going first. My legs are still trapped. Don't worry, my weight managed to untrap my legs. And my legs soon got free with the weight of my body. And I plummeted down to the ground. And it changed my life. And again, for reasons here, I hit the ground. I don't remember hitting the ground. I was left unconscious. I don't know whether it was fortunate or unfortunate. I was not alone. I fell at the feet of my wife's auntie, 74-year-old auntie who was over from China, who spoke no English, and I spoke no Chinese. To come round to find a lady screaming in Chinese, clearly in distress. But I come round realising I'm still alive, realising the 74-year-old auntie was going to be of no use to me whatsoever, other than to scream in Chinese. At which point I decide I need to start doing some checks myself, etc. I realised my face was bleeding, my glasses were don't know where, I'm lost without my glasses, and realising that my whole of my side was in a bad way. Looking at my leg, and the angle of my leg and my foot was clearly not where it was meant to be, clearly where it's not meant to be, and thinking, I'll shake this off in a minute and I'll get up. I was, at this point, I'm absolutely thinking I'm going to get up in a minute, and I managed to, all I'm going to say is, I wanted this Chinese woman to shut up. And that's all I wanted. And all I'm thinking of is, how do you say shut up in Chinese? Auntie managed to get my son on the phone, who was fluent in Chinese. And for those of you who don't know, my wife is Chinese. My son's fluent, obviously, Chinese. And all I would say to him, because Auntie's screaming something at him, obviously he's fallen from the roof, he's on the floor, he's bleeding, he's in a mess, blah, blah, blah. All I'm saying to him is, Stephen, please tell me, how do you say shut up in Chinese? He's like, what the hell's going on? What's happened? I said, don't worry about that. I'll be fine. I'm going to get up in a minute. And anyway, he was no use to me, there. But he was on his way back to the house. A little while later, my auntie managed to get hold of my wife, who was at work, on the iPad. My wife's looking at me. Of course, my priority is, how do you say shut up in Chinese? And my wife said, what's going on? I said, I've fallen from the roof. You've done what? And then my wife starts screaming in Chinese, and etc. etc. And she was then coming home. I'm like, no, I'll be fine, And I passed her the iPad, and it was this point when the pain hit me, and I realised I punctured my lungs. And there was a beautiful imprint of a house brick in my chest. Quite nice. At that point there, I needed, and things started to take a serious turn from there. It was 2 ambulances that they ended up getting. I was on a bit of a ledge. They had to get me down. They were worried how to get me down. I lived in Cornwall, as we know. Cornwall, everything's on a hill. They took a while to get me to the ambulance. Things took a turn for the worse. Hour and a half in the ambulance while they stabilised me to make me fit for transport to Plymouth Hospital. And then, of course, we realised things. I was starting to realise this. I'm not going to shake this off. I didn't shake it off. It took them 6 months to get me walking again properly. And I say that was 7 years ago, back in 2018. I'm not fully, never will be fully recovered. Various things affect me. I had other hereditary joint bone problems before, which hasn't helped, etc., etc. So yes, I needed to do something with my life, really, at that point. The more significant thing, and I know why I'm really here, is I would go back before that date, and I would argue completely with people that my business would not survive without me. I don't care what your business is, yours is different. I was absolutely adamant. People used to say to me, and I used to go to that office every day. I worked 10, 12 hours a day. When I was home, I'd be working. It absolutely wouldn't work without me. And adamant, it wouldn't work. Of course, the following Monday morning on my accident, I'm not going back to work. I absolutely was not going to go back to work. I was on the Monday able to speak on the phone to my office staff. I had somebody who just qualified. He's just done his apprenticeship as a marketing assistant for me. He wasn't your average 17-year-old, though. He came to me age 25. He came to me already with a degree in graphic design, who wanted to change careers to marketing. A bit of a strange thing, really, but I wasn't absolutely sure it was going to work at first, because he was too mature. This is jobs as an apprenticeship, and he's going to be on low wages. Anyway, that's what he wanted. We talked, we agreed. He was there. He'd finished that. He was there, and he was doing the marketing. And literally, it was my call to him to say, look, can you just hold the fort, etc., etc. And unfortunately, he was very mature. He was able to just cover the fort and manage it. I mean, at the time, I didn't know how long it was going to be and how it was going to manage. We also had another apprentice who was an administrator. And they just took the thing and said, yes, we'll manage it. We'll cope. And well, cope they did. They did very, very well. As I said at the time, just all you need to do is do this and do that. Don't worry about the rest of it. And then gradually, of course, they took it over. I suppose really, things changed massively. I knew I wasn't going to go back to work for some time. I started doing a lot of reading, of which I picked up your book, The Ambitious Lifestyle, found there, amongst others, etc. And I'd previously been part of another group, another business group, which I think you were involved with in some capacity there, etc. But I was a little bit disillusioned with that group, because, of course, they're on about how you become a billionaire and a millionaire, and it was all about working hard and pushing hard and etc. etc.
Creating a super successful business.
Yes, and I'd already considered. I used to consider myself a little bit strange in my business, because I was happy with how my business was going. It provided me with the income that I needed, and I've always said that I don't need a massive income. When I went to this other group, of which I went to a wonderful conference weekend in Birmingham, first thing they did is they got us to write down the business plan on a huge bit of paper, and they said, what you've got to do is you've got to put down everything that you want yourself. If you want 10 Ferraris, put 10 Ferraris. If you want 20 holidays and cruises a year, then put this down. And if you want all of this stuff, put it down. And then what you do is the next bit of paper, we're going to work out what your business needs to do for you to earn this money, And I'm thinking, I don't want that. So I can't remember what I put down a very modest income. I just want this. I want enough for my wife not to be able to work. I want to, pay my bills, etc., etc. I want a couple of holidays a year. Very modest, I thought. I mean, the guy first of all looked and said, what? But anyway, the point was, I remember at the beginning, he looked up and they said, we will look at some businesses and we will look at them and go, this business is not going to work. And I'm literally sitting there thinking, not mine, you won't, not mine, etc. It was an interesting exercise, and it follows on from my attitude now, because at the time I used to look after other driving schools. I didn't run my own driving school. I didn't do the books, the things I do now. I looked after other driving schools, and charged them a small fee for doing so. And we looked at this business model, and at the end of it, in order to provide my income that I want, I think I needed something like another 80 schools, which would have worked for me to make this business model work. And then I thought, well, no, it wouldn't be 80, because if I get another 20 schools, I'll need another member of staff. So it won't be 80. I'll probably need 90. No, because I'd need to run. I'd need 5 more members of staff, and I'd need 100. I remember the guy saying to me, "Is it possible with your business?" I'm like, "No, impossible. Absolutely impossible." I think, well, it must work, And at the time, they asked me, did I know 3 people? They asked me if I knew them. Of course I know them. I said, I've trained them, And he asked me about these people, and they were running businesses, driving schools, very, very successful. And I was not being very successful, although I was training looking after these driving schools and looking at the model. But something had happened just before this meeting. One of my driving schools that I looked after, the guy was ill. He was going to retire. Didn't know when I was going to drive the school, and had toyed with the idea of taking over his school with 3 instructors. But wasn't sure. So I said about this, and we re-looked at the business model. He said, do it again, but now do it. Imagine that you are the driving school owner with this business, you see. And in the end, I did it all. And we looked at it. I said, how many driving instructors would you need to work for you for this business model to work? And I was like, 15. And he says, so why don't you do that then? Because I'm Dave Foster, M-A-D-D-I. I look after schools. I'm not a driver school owner. That's not what I want to do. That's, I want to look after the schools. Well, in which case you're going to have to put their fees up by 10 times. It's impossible, And it was a massive turning for me, because I looked at it and thought, why am I doing this? And that is actually what happened. I actually changed the model and gradually lost the schools that I was looking after. I still look after one, actually. But I lost the schools by either putting their prices up a little bit, making it a bit more for me. And I started running the driver school. And it's much easier than what we were doing. Because with every school before, I build their websites, so we'd look after all their websites. Now I have 2 websites to look after. It's bliss. It's so much easier than looking after 20 odd websites and all the stuff that goes with it,
And you've got 10 Ferraris now.
Well, no. No, because again, I say that was the other group. Let's work. Well, I've come to the 1% group, etc. It was this ambitious lifestyle, and I realised that, what? Success is not measured in Ferraris necessarily. It's measured in quality of life and things that you want to do, etc. I'd say I came to your group while I was actually in my hospital bed, while I was in my in my bed and etc. I come to the group then and started realising then, well, this is what I need to do. I need to change my outlook and how we're going to do it. I changed my expectations. I thought, well, I don't need to be a business owner and have to have Ferraris and big houses and lots of holidays. Having said that, I then proceeded in having lots of holidays. But you realise that life you can look at what you want differently, and that was what it was. So 6 months, really, of getting the business there. The guy who was my marketing manager became my manager. Really, he thrived on it. He really was there. So he changed what he did. He thrived on it. The biggest point is, I think what changed was I stopped working in my business and I started working on my business. So each day I would be in contact, but the contact was what we do, etc., etc. They always ask me for decisions or certain decisions, although most of the times I'd be saying, well, what do you think we should do? Go and do it. You don't necessarily have to ask me for these sorts of things. And then it completely changed to the point that when I was able to sort of walk again and properly, etc. I mean, the first thing we actually did is we went on a cruise, and that was a little bit tough. I probably went on the cruise a little bit earlier than I should have.
Get your sea legs. That's a brilliant place to start a holiday with your recovery.
Yeah, it's another story, but I ended up with struggling. But I was there. We went on a holiday, and that's what we started to do. And although we already had a caravan, we then decided that we would go change it for a motorhome and camper van again. We'd start touring. So literally, we were then thinking, well, why do I need to stay in England? Let's go. So we were off to France and we were off to Spain, etc., etc. And we spent a lot, and I was able to do what I did from the van, from wherever I was. I said at the beginning, I actually never really wanted to run a driving school, and I actually stopped running the driving school because the staff were running the driving school. Disaster number 2 for all of us, or for me, was Brexit. Not Brexit, although that was a disaster, but that's another story. It was COVID. COVID, again, created more problems. But out of COVID came an idea again from my business manager, because he found a book which I'd written, a lesson planner which I'd written back from then, probably 10 years previously, and it's something I used because I could not find a product on the market to help my trainees. The products on the market were not in line with DVSA practices. They were basically written by somebody who just had an idea in their head and wrote them. There was no proper pedagogy. There was no proper structure to them or training. And when I did my training, my skill really was making things really, really simple for people. And they would often go, time and time again, people would go, it can't be that easy. And you go, yeah, it is. Just do that. But that's too simple. Just do that. You will pass your test like that. It'll be basic. It'll be a bit regimental sort of thing, but you will pass. And of course, they will pass their tests, etc. I said, then we'll work on fine-tuning it later. But you've got to get these. A speciality was mine with people would come to me having failed multiple tests, being on their literally last attempts. They're going to fail, etc., etc. They'd come to me on the Tuesday. Their final test was on the Friday. They'd had hundreds of hours of training. They'd had various student instructors. A classic, they bring out all the books and they put them all on their lap and they look at them and I go, let's have a look at them and give them to me here. I'd open the window and throw them all out the window. And that was just a sort of a visual prompt for them. I said, I'll drop them out the window and go, right, we're going to start again. I said, but my books, but your books have got you nowhere. And I got a little bit of plastic I had, a little print out. I stick that on that, right, this is what you're going to use, etc. And it was a system very, very easy. And on the Friday, they'd go off and they'd pass. And they were there. And it was this system. So that's really what I took. So, anyway, he said, I found this book. And I said, I haven't used that for ages, etc., etc. He said, well, we're sitting around in this office in COVID doing nothing. He has a degree in graphic design. If I rewrote the words and he redid the graphics, could we sell it? I don't know. I suppose we might sell 3 or 4 a week, I suppose, or maybe we'll sell 3 or 4 a month, better than sitting around here doing nothing. So we redesigned it and we launched it on a Friday. All the campaign was done, launched it, went home for the weekend, so to speak. On the Monday morning, turned up to 183 orders. After the first year, having sold, well, it didn't keep going to 183, but it was 3 or 4 a day selling. After the first year, I remember Michael, the marketing guy, said, "No, it's going to stop now." He said, "It's going to stop." He said, because I think everybody's bought one now. How long ago was COVID?
5 years now.
5 years. It ain't stopped. It's still going. But anyway, out of another disaster really came something which gave me something which I enjoy doing, because I like the writing, I like the doing the products. And then what happened is we have another complete business now, which just makes these products and sells them. And then we realised, well, hang on, something else. People say, they lesson plans. So I wrote the physical lesson plans for them. We sell the lesson plans and all sorts of different things, etc. I wrote the 2 books now, the 2 Amazon books, which always say, again, you never get rich on them, but they're great. I think it was you that said they're fantastic business cards.
Yeah.
One of the things which we were struggling with as a company, I've spoken to Jason many times about it, is trying to attract new driving instructors into the company. And I've just struggled no matter what I did, etc., etc. A little bit of a disaster back in January this year when my staff left. Michael, instead, he left some time ago. He went for pastures new. It was the way he wanted. He wanted to become a manager of a bigger company, etc. And he went. And then the girl took over his position, but it was still carrying on good. They left in January, leaving me with, well, again, you could say a problem initially, but no, it turned into a positive again. And this is the thing there. And back in January, I was having a few health issues, etc., etc., a few problems. On hospital was telling me, do not get stressed, etc. Just don't get stressed, Not good.
No chance. I'm a business owner. I'm never going to get stressed. Yeah, right.
So, and they do not get stressed. I'm going to do more tests later on in the year, but don't get stressed in the meantime. And my staff walk out on me. Quick flight over to England. Oh, I haven't covered this station yet. But anyway, quick flight over there, and I basically brought the office back here, which means nothing to people who are listening at the moment because I've missed the chapter. Backtrack a bit. I told you I was out in my motorhome. I was over here a lot. We were going backwards and forwards, etc. One thing that I noticed quite considerably was the way my health was so much better in the warmer weather. And I went back to England 5 years ago. February the 6th, I had to go back. It was because of my 90 days Brexit thing, etc., etc. I try to say Brexit without spitting, sorry. And I had to go back because my 90 days were up. And of course, I just had Christmas dinner outside my camper van in the sun. Okay, it wasn't like we get really blazing sunshine, but it was warm enough to sit and have Christmas dinner outside. I celebrated New Year's Eve outside with friends and people we'd met on the campsite. And I had to go back to England on a February the 6th. And if you could imagine getting the ferry back to Plymouth and then driving back to England, it was depressing. 2 weeks later, I'm struggling to walk. I'm really having problems. I'm like, why are we doing this? So the next time we went back, we looked at, could we possibly come here permanently into Spain and live. So that's what we explored really. And then we looked at it. And it happened. The next time we went back, we said, well, we're going to do this. We're going to look at doing this. Very much believe in fate and things. So we're going to put the house on the market. I'm going to give it 2 weeks. If the house sells in 2 weeks, it's meant to be. We sold the house that night. Literally sold it to my neighbour's son because we went to see the neighbour and say, look, we're thinking about living in Spain. And, well, we'd be sad to lose you, etc., but, you're better off there health-wise. And, oh, hang on, my son's looking at a house and he bought it and we sold everything. We sold everything, lock, stock and barrel. Bought a house over here near Torrevieja. I researched the whole of Spain, really, for the best weather. And probably the most... It's huge because there's parts of Spain which looks beautiful in the summer, etc., but they have snow in the winter. And the first time I was looking at a place near Granada, and I thought, what a fantastic place I can get for my money, 100,000. I can have tennis courts, swimming pools, outbuildings, 15 Ferraris come. No, I may be lying about the Ferraris. But the property was incredible property for the money. And I thought, wow, and I looked at this forum about Granada and all this, and somebody said, about the snow. And I thought, snow in Spain? Don't be stupid, snow in Spain. And then you realise there are extremes in weather. So literally you can get really, really hot and really, really cold. And I thought, that ain't going to do me any good whatsoever. So we looked at the best weather for the band, so to speak, for the minimum amount of the average temperatures. The best in Spain seems to be Torrevieja. I did not want to live in Torrevieja, etc. That seemed to be it. So I'd already earmarked this sort of stretch of coast along here. And we live in a place called San Miguel de Salinas. I can see Torrevieja from my top terrace across the Pink Lakes, the famous Pink Lakes you've probably heard of or seen.
Flamingo Lakes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're salt there. And right across there, Torrevieja, and then I can see the sea in the background, the sea over in the distance, and I can see out towards Lezenia and all this lot. So it's an ideal place. It's also important to us as well was not to live in a Pueblo Blanco, your pretty holiday, etc. place, and also not to live in a place where there was 100% English. We wanted to get involved in the culture. We want to do this. Now we do have English where we live, but in San Miguel de Salinas, it is very much a working town. It's not a pretty town as such. I think it's pretty, but it's very much a working town. And that for us is great, especially because when you go to the restaurants and things, of course, they have to cater for the Spanish, not just tourists. And the food and the wine is of better quality and it's cheaper. If we move to the holiday resorts, the prices go up, the quality drops. So for us there. So we came here and we moved here permanently. Quick discussion with the staff back at the time and just said, look, what do you think about it? And they were like, it's going to make no difference to them whatsoever. I'm not sure that was a good thing. No. But yeah, it's not. We don't need you. Go away. But no, because they always needed me in that background sort of thing. Of course, around about the time you wrote The False Exit, and I think I said to you, I wrote The False Exit after I'd made The False Exit, and it was interesting. I thought, it was almost a recap, etc. And of course, as I jokingly, but it's true really at the moment, I'm in what I call False Exit 2, because my staff, of course, left back in January. I took the business back over to here, so I'm very much hands-on looking after it. Fortunately, it makes no difference. If I make a phone call from here, a Liscard Cornish telephone number dials into, who they're ringing for, and that people will say, "Oh, what's that code for? Is it Liscard?" I'm a little bit further south than that, but yeah, it's took over. It also gave me a chance to look at the business and again to really there and to relook at the systems because that's, I think, is massively important. Systems, you talk about systems all the time. I have systems for everything. Fortunately, I've done a lot of apprentices over the years, and what I started doing is getting the apprentices to write the systems whenever they did anything, write it down, etc. And the last girl, she was great at screenshotting everything. So every time she did something the first time, she'd screenshot it. So we've got lots and lots of systems which help. Lots of systems that are out of date now. So coming to me now, I'm able to relook at those systems. And one of the great ones I visited is why the heck we are not recruiting instructors. Because I got involved and looked at it and found that we'd had 44 inquiries for potential instructors to come and work for my driving school, etc. And of course, the girl had left, etc. You soon realise that this is interesting. Why have we got 44 that have not been followed up or not been there? I was always like, are we getting inquiries? No, not really. We're not getting them, etc. So I didn't have a system in place to check that and didn't think I needed. Bit of advice, always say, make sure you got the chicks. No matter how much you trust the staff, you do need a system, something.
Trust, verify. Get those red flag systems in place.
Yeah. So I looked at that, and within a very short space of time, I managed to go back and rescue some of them. Sent them all a copy of my book. Sent them a copy of the book, and amazingly, I'm sitting now with 14 trainee driving instructors on the system, ready to join into the company. I've doubled the amount of instructors and double the amount of double the amount of income.
30 at the moment. Is that the latest count I think we got?
Sorry? Ferraris.
30 Ferraris at the latest count now, Dave, aren't we?
No. If I ever did get a Ferrari, if I ever wanted one, it would have to be an old one. I'm a thing. I don't like modern cars. Etc. It's like my car now. People see my car and they think, "Oh, wow! Wow! Look at that!" I mean, there's a Mercedes CLK convertible, and it looks stunning. And some people think it's brand new. It's 23 years old. It's 23-year-old, but it does look stunning. And we got a 20-year-old motorhome. We bought a new camper van as well because we're going to go touring again from here. But just the way we are, I like it. So yeah, keep tabs on your business still, definitely. The flags are there. I managed to rescue these guys, and it really wasn't difficult to get them on board. I rewrote the standard email. I was in a bit of a hurry, and basically I took the standard email, copied and pasted it into the email, and then just wrote a little bit at the top of it saying, "Sorry, I've not been in touch, blah, blah, blah. Your error is really good for us." A little bit of personal stuff that was me talking to them, etc. Look, if you really want any other questions, just read the stuff below. It's standard gubbins, but there's lots of links in there. There's lots of stuff, etc. It's probably too much, etc. But there's a little bit of honesty in there. Like, look at it. But if you want, here's my WhatsApp number. Just message me. And my God, it just worked. And people would come back and say, "Right, what do I do next?" "Sorry, I'm not used to this." "What do I do next? How do I join?" "Oh, who do I pay? How do I pay?" "Right, okay. Oh, don't you want? Well, okay. Look, I'll draft you a contract and I'll send you this contract." I hated sending the contract out. My contract is like 16 pages long. the industry as a whole, if you get onto Facebook, don't sign a contract to a driving school. They're all rip-off merchants, etc., etc. Don't sign contracts, which I do. I do have a contract. I used to hate sending the contract out because I'm waiting for that's it, bye, That was always one of the things with the girl, with the staff. They said, I send the contract, we never hear from them again. So I'm sending out these contracts. I'm sending them out using sign online things. And I'm like, what's this? Good God, the contract's come back signed. Crikey. And then they're messaging me, how do I pay? And I'm like, this can't be this easy. It was just working. And I haven't changed that process I always, on my email, it's got to be it's on my email, it's got the name of the email, template. Then it says something like to be rewritten. I'm not rewriting it because it's not broken. And each time now I do the same thing. I just copy and paste it and then sort of say, down below is the standard bump, etc., the advertising bump. And it starts off with, now never been a better time to become a driving instructor, blah, blah, blah. And it follows where is your thing? Your thing on the wall somewhere. Your thing. Oh, can't find it. Never mind. Yes,
on the wall.
the message is probably in here. It's
the copyright checklist, yeah?
Yeah. Copyright check. It follows that, etc. And it was written with all that there. But the first bit is literally this. Your area is good for me, something. It's not polished. It's just a little bit of honest. I'm writing to you. There's something they've said in their email or something, or their area or something. And I just write it. Just read the bump below and then contact me. And they do. And then often, if you want to send me your name and address, I'll send you a copy of my book. So you send them a copy of the book. And that's it. So, yeah, it's been good. And they're there. And again, if it's, I'm struggling at the moment with DVSA, that's the government office, because they can't provide me the tests for these guys. But if they could provide me with tests for these guys, they would be on franchise working for me. And I wouldn't be turning away the 35 to 40 new pupils, which I also turn away every single day because I haven't got enough instructors working for me to do it. It's a crazy situation, really. But things massively changed over the years. Now I'm turning away work like crazy. Now I'm holding back on actually recruiting instructors because of the problem with the DVSA, and there isn't a magic wand there. There's no way I can do that. I can get around that. That side of it is there. I can't chase up the DVSA. I'm sure at some point they will sort the problems. I have written to them a few times. I do have a little bit of clout with them because previously for 7 years I worked with them redesigning the system of how we train instructors now. Being the owner holder in the world of a master's degree in driver training education seemed to work for them. So I did a lot of work with them for there. And now I'm actually telling them that, I'm hinting that they may be on legal problems because, of course, these guys got to complete their training within 6 months of going on what we call trainee license, and they're not getting test dates for 10 months. So I'm not quite sure how this would fit with audit and things like this if we were to take this to court. I'm not saying I'm taking it to court. I'm just making somebody look at it and go, oh, yeah. But it's there. So what do I do in the meantime? Well, I've started writing another book because I can't do anything on that side. So we'll start writing book number, next thing, etc., and produce it. So yeah, you've got to look at it. You've got to look at each problem as it can be turned into a positive, really. What can I do? And these are things I've picked up from 1%, over the things, etc. 1%, I say I don't get involved quite so much as I do, but I do go into the background. I do go into the master classes and look at some of them and think what we do there. It's been too long since I spoke with Jason, probably. But if I'm quiet, it's because I'm all right. You know what I mean? or I'm finding what it is. I did come into the meeting the other day, with the guest speaker. That was an interesting meeting. He smiles to himself. He was brutal.
It was quite intense, wasn't it? For those listening, it was Louis Grenier, author of the book Stand the F Out, who did not pull any punches at all with any of our members, did not take any nonsense, and just, owned the room for 90 minutes.
There was a few things which he said about, and he was brutal. He didn't pull any, he didn't hang back. He went from there, and I thought, crikey. You have to go to those meetings with no ego. You have to go to things like that and think, right, okay, look, this guy's helping me. He's being brutally honest, and he's telling you as it is, etc., etc. So when he annihilates your website or annihilates your business in a sense or something, I don't see anything different here than anybody else is producing. And I mean, I can imagine if he did it to me, I'd be like, I'm going to go away and cry. I'm sorry. I thought I got something special. But you'd have to go back and reflect and think, well, it was there. But, I came into that one. But again, I take stuff away from everything.
Do you think your younger self would have taken some of the criticisms he might have given back pre-accident and everything else? No.
See, this is because a very strong point I'm saying. I go back to myself 10 years ago. Or longer. But, when I went to that other business group and I sat there, you're not going to annihilate my business. I've got a fantastic business, etc., etc. And they annihilated it. I mean, I was quite upset. I'm thinking, sorry. Although the reality of the figures, I mean, they did do it in a clever way, because when you look at the figures, you think it can't work. I'm good with figures. I couldn't put on them. I'm like, well, how did I get into this state? Because, I've got this fantastic idea, of which people are telling me this is a fantastic idea. I've got a girl that works for me as an instructor, and she worked for me now for 18 years. And she was like, I don't know why you haven't got hundreds of schools that you look after, because you do all this stuff and you do all this and it. You should have hundreds of schools. The reality was, if I'd have had hundreds of schools, which I hadn't realised, I'd have been in trouble. Because I'd have had to have hundreds of staff. Because there's only so many staff can deal with so many schools, etc., etc. And my own school grew massively from then. I mean, I didn't really have a school. I had sort of workings of a brand which I was letting other people use. First for driving Cornwall, first for driving Devon, etc., etc. I amalgamated that back into just first for driving. I'd never been able to cope, to be able to do what we're doing now. It would never have coped. So that they really, they did point the problem out. And then, of course, later on myself, what do I need? What do I want?
Brilliant, Dave. Just before I ask you the last question, I think we've let you go and talk pretty much the entire call, haven't you? So that's brilliant and absolutely amazing. But there's so much in there for other business owners to kind of learn and to understand as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. That hamster wheel that business owners find themselves on, and I see it quite often with people coming into 1% Club. They're on the hamster wheel. They know there needs to be some change, but they don't know how to do it. And actually, until disaster strikes, and it happens with a fair few of our 1%ers, they don't have that momentum they don't have the inclination then to see what could change and what could be possible. And I think you've just highlighted a few times in your last 10 years where that's happened. And that's just brilliant. So I'm hoping the listeners will take away some of those learnings that you've created and go, actually, there is a different way and we can look at this differently. The last question for you then is, this is the Ambitious Lifestyle Business podcast. What does the Ambitious Lifestyle Business mean to you?
Well, probably answered it really. Ambitious, it changes in what is your view of what is ambitious to you? What do you want out of life? do you want 15 Ferraris or whatever, do you want that? And that's what it is. But also bear in mind, I mean, at the last Alicante group, a lot of people were talking about their false exit, etc. And I think I said to John, I said, there is the false exit that you choose, but be careful, there's often the false exit you don't choose. I didn't choose my false exit at first. There. So yeah, what does it mean? Ambitious is what is your ambition? What is it? What are you going to look for? That's your plan. It does not have to be rich lifestyle, as in terms of monetary value necessarily. The great thing is for me is if I do want to increase income, I know I could. I know I can. If I've decided, well, I really do need to turn it up a bit. I know I can. Until then, I can stop. I do about most days 1-2 hours work a day, if that. Some days, if I want to shoot off to Alicante for 3 days, and I could do it. It doesn't make any difference. 10 minutes in the morning each day, just checking for anything urgent. But that'll be gone soon because, of course, False Exit 2 is in plan, etc. Very soon, I shall probably have a virtual member of staff in Philippines or something who will be dealing with all that side of it, allowing me to get on with doing what I do. If I'm not doing anything and I feel like sitting down and writing some chapters of my book or whatever, I can do that. There's no deadline. No deadline for me. I don't. John's always talking about his deadlines. I don't have deadlines. It'll be done when it's done. And that is my.
Talk to John about deadlines.
Yeah. I don't have deadlines. So, etc. It'll be done when it's done, and that. I suppose this is where the massive difference is. It's changed.
Is the culture of Spain the Mañana effect? Is that what we're seeing?
I remember.
Or priorities changing a little.
I originally come from Cornwall. We have a word called directly that makes Mañana look like a positive sense of urgency. Or sometime tomorrow, maybe. Work became secondary, etc. I do need to earn money. I'm not I'm not in a position where I don't have to earn money. I will always have to earn money, certainly for some time. I live in Spain. I have no private pension. I have no mystery benefactor, etc. My business, my driving school, books, etc., is my pension. That will be it. If that provides me with £1,000, £2,000 a month, £1,000, £1,500 a month, that will be happy for me when I'm retired. If I can just produce new stuff there and then, and if they top up my pension, that will be my priority for me. If I wanted it to do more, I could.
It's a good testament, isn't it? It's fantastic. Thank you ever so much for joining us on this edition of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. You have been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. And to the listeners, we'll see you next month for another episode of the AOB Podcast. See you later.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.